Hello, I am Peter Okwocha. Welcome to Focus on Africa, our top stories. Authorities in Lagos say they will launch an investigation into Wednesday's building collapse which killed 11 people. This as emergency services call off the search for survivors.
We recovered the body, an adult male, at about 3 a.m. and up till now, we haven't recovered anybody.
Newly elected President Etienne Tshisekedi pardons over 700 political prisoners in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Also on the program, Seeing Double. We meet twins models from the DRC who are on a mission to end discrimination in the fashion world.
Always when we look casting for work or modeling things, we never have hope to get it. If we get it, it's fine. If we're not, we are not disappointed. So it's kind of normal.
And in sports, CAF Vice President Amaju Pinnick says Africa will support a World Cup expansion. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The emergency services in Nigeria have called off their search for survivors of a building collapse in the biggest city, Lagos. 11 people are known to have died when the 4-story building collapsed on Wednesday. But it's not known how many people were inside the multi-purpose building when it collapsed. The building was declared unsafe in 2017, but an order to demolish it was ignored. The authorities in Lagos say they will launch an investigation. Well, on the line now is the BBC's Mayeni Jones in Lagos. Mayeni, what's the latest?
Hi, Peter. Yes, over here, as you can see behind me, the majority of the building has been razed down to the ground. Authorities say that they're confident that there are no bodies or no survivors left under the rubble. And in order to make this clear, they've broken down any remaining bits of the structure. But there's still many crowds here, a lot of bystanders standing all around us, trying to get a glimpse of what's happening. And a few people did tell us earlier today that they believe that there were still people trapped underneath. We spoke to them earlier, and this is what they had to say.
Shaken but lucky to be alive. These are some of the victims who were rescued from the wreckage on Wednesday. But not everyone could rejoice. Many bystanders waited anxiously for news of their loved ones. Leonard Ikweze is one of the fortunate ones. His daughter is receiving treatment at this hospital.
I don't know where to start. I'm a happy person. For me to see my daughter. Someone left the house, hell and heart, all of a sudden, this thing happened. I want to thank God.
Back at the site of the collapse, residents want answers.
There's a lot of anger here as residents ask exactly how this could happen. Subpar building materials are often used in construction around the city, and the authorities are not always good at enforcing regulation.
This neighbor says the building had been marked for demolition 3 times. Red crosses sprayed on it, but that the owner painted over these marks.
He said he would fix the house when all of the plaster fell off, rather than doing it bit by bit. He was here when the building collapsed. He tried to run away. The people caught him, but he managed to escape later.
The authorities say the community should have raised their concerns with them earlier.
You can organize yourself as a community to force government to act. I am not aware, for instance, that the building has been marked because it's not my job. But if I am given that information, I pass it to the building control people.
Residents say other buildings in the area are showing signs of weakness. According to the State Building Control Agency, 90% of buildings in Lagos were constructed without a building permit. The government says an investigation will be carried out and those found guilty prosecuted. But many here doubt that this latest tragedy will lead to any effective change. Mayeni Jones, BBC News, Lagos.
Mayeni is still with us. Mayeni, you talk about the people's anger there, but I can't believe that they'll be that surprised because, I mean, this is not the first time this kind of thing has happened in Lagos.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, early in 2017, there were a number of collapses, not just in Lagos. but across the country it's a problem that's very frequent. As I said in the piece, poor building materials are used time and time again, and these incidents happen very often. And according to the building regulators here, they say 90% of the buildings in Lagos are built without any proper permit. So it's very hard to know exactly what's going into them, whether they're following proper building instructions when they're putting these buildings up. So people are frustrated, they're disappointed more than anything, and they have the feeling that they've been abandoned, that because, you know, this is a poor neighborhood, a working class neighborhood, because as they say, as some people told us earlier, it's not the sons and the daughters of the wealthy who are here, who are being affected by this. They have a feeling that the authorities don't really care.
And you talk about the authorities not caring, because we've heard all this rhetoric in the past from them. They've said they will investigate, they will make effective changes. But now that we've got young children involved, I mean, there was a school on top of this 4-story residential building. Do people think any effective change will now take place?
I think the reason why people are doubtful that this kind of change is going to take place is exactly because, as you said before, when these kinds of incidents has happened, nothing's been done. Yes, they're hoping that the fact that it's children being affected this time will lead to much change, but unfortunately, I mean, the government has issued a statement. The new governor of Lagos has also expressed his sadness as what's happened, but nobody is explaining exactly what needs to happen. Just driving over here today, you see so many of these buildings packed tightly together on Lagos Island, and no indication that any of these buildings are going to be brought down. And if they are, more importantly, people are asking where would they move the majority of the residents here. So it's a very complicated and difficult story that's tied to the wider expansion of Lagos and the fact that this expansion is happening in a very unplanned manner.
Mayeni Jones, thank you very much, speaking to us live there from Lagos. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Algeria's new Prime Minister Noureddine Bedoui has said the country's new government will be formed within a week and will form a technocratic government which will take charge for a short period. He said it would include women and young Algerians who had led recent demonstrations. The flight recorders for Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 have arrived in Paris, where they will be analyzed for potential clues into Sunday's plane crash near Addis Ababa. 157 people died. Countries around the globe have grounded the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and MAX 9 aircrafts, including the US, Canada, India, China, as well as all of Europe. Huawei, the Chinese telecom giant, has pleaded not guilty in a US court to 13 federal charges, including fraud and the violation of sanctions against Iran. Huawei is accused of working to defraud banks by misrepresenting its relationship with a Hong Kong-based company that sold products to Iran. Now, in what is seen as a major gesture of reconciliation, the newly elected president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has ordered the release of hundreds of political prisoners detained under his predecessor, Joseph Kabila. The number includes all those arrested during deadly pro-democracy protests between 2015 and 2018. Well, let's get more on this now from our reporter, Gaius Kowene, who joins us from the DRC's capital city, Kinshasa. Gaius, first of all, do we know who these prisoners who have been released are?
Well, the complete list of more than 700 people has not yet been made public. However, there are 3 names that were announced by the chief of staff of the presidency. And one of the names that he announced is the name of Firmin Ngambi, who is a lawyer who was arrested in 2019 and then was condemned a year later to a death penalty. And also the other person is a former MP, opposition MP, Frank Diongo, who was arrested in 2016 and was accused of sequestrating 3 presidential guards. So those are the 2 main people we know that whose pardon has been confirmed. Now there is another 3rd person who is called Mr. Eugène Diomi Dongala, who was also arrested, and for his case they have to wait for the Minister of Justice to come back from a mission from a mission in the country so that he can sign his release.
Now, why is President Tshisekedi doing this now? I mean, he's just formed an alliance with the former president, Joseph Kabila. Is he trying to prove that he's his own man?
Well, first we need to put this in context. The release of political prisoners was one of the requests by the opposition, and at the time President Tshisekedi was in the opposition, and they wanted this to happen before the country organized elections. That was during President Joseph Kabila's rule, but unfortunately it did not happen, so the country had to wait.
We seem to have lost that line to the DR Congo. We're speaking there to our reporter, Gaius Kowene. Now, the UN estimates that in sub-Saharan Africa, 3 out of 4 new HIV infections amongst 15 to 19-year-olds are young women. Relobehile Leatha was just 15 when she was diagnosed with the virus in 2006. She was also pregnant with her first child. But she's using her positive status to help other women in Lesotho get the health care they need and challenge the inequalities that make women and girls more vulnerable to HIV. She spoke to Roxana Hamid.
I was very shocked when they told me that I'm HIV positive, so I couldn't handle it. I decided to tell my mother, even though it was too tough for me. My mother said that I would support you throughout everything that you're going through. Also that my siblings took an initiative to also go and get tested, of which one of my sisters was HIV positive.
Did your classmates know about your HIV status?
No, they didn't know about my HIV status, but I became ill and I lost weight, I looked sick, so that was the reason why other students wouldn't want to sit near me. So it was very emotional for me. I couldn't handle it because I knew by myself that I was HIV positive.
And how did you feel?
It was very emotional. It was something that was heading to being HIV positive at that age, and had to carry on with life as usual. It was hard. I needed the support from my family and from other people as well. So the only support I got was from my family and my siblings only.
So how did you hear about Mothers to Mothers?
I heard about Mothers to Mothers in 2013 when I was pregnant with my second child. Compared to the first pregnancy I had, it was such a huge difference because at first I was only supported by the family only, but this time with the second pregnancy I've got mentor mothers behind me, people who really understood how is it like to be living with a long life illness. So they supported me and they taught me how to adhere well on my adherence and my treatment, and to be confident with my status. So I wanted to give out this thing that I have got to other women outside there that I know that they really need help.
You have 2 daughters who are 13 and 6 years old. What advice do you give them?
I would advise them to just know that they have to stand up for themselves and to do everything that they need to do, but in a positive way. So I would like them to know that they will have to stand up for themselves and live the life they want to live.
That's HIV activist Relobehile Leatha speaking to Focus on Africa. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come, Mimi with the sports as Rennes travelled to the Emirates to face Arsenal in the Europa League. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top stories this hour. Emergency services call off the search for survivors after Wednesday's building collapse in Lagos. 11 people were killed and dozens injured. Authorities say they will launch an investigation. And the president of the DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, has pardoned hundreds of political prisoners in what's being seen as a gesture of reconciliation with the opposition. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports. Mimi, take it away.
Thank you very much, Peter. Confederation of African Football President Ahmad has missed the first day of FIFA Council meetings in Miami after problems obtaining his visa to enter the United States. Ahmad, who is also FIFA Vice President, was unable to attend the opening session of the two-day meeting, which begins today. Earlier, reports indicated that the Malagasy had been refused a visa, which CAF, when contacted by the BBC, confirmed. But CAF have now stated that Ahmad's visa has been granted. And still staying with the Confederation of African Football, their vice president, who's also the president of the Nigeria Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, has told the BBC that Africa will definitely support expanding the 2022 World Cup to 48 teams. FIFA's council meeting, which begins today in Miami, will discuss on their agenda the possible expansion. With Africa's World Cup set to double, it's no surprise that Pinnick has given his backing.
They're extensively consulting various countries and various opinions, not just in Asia or in the Middle East, but across board, across all the member nations. And I believe it's looking very good because, of course, like I always say, the more the merrier. And why do we need to wait till 2026 if we can achieve it now? So I believe because if you do it now, there'll be more money, there'll be more participating teams, additional 50 teams. Like in Africa, we're going to have 100 plus 4.5, which makes more sense to us rather than going with just 5 nations. So I believe it's a major plus for Gianni Infantino, and that's why Africa will always support him.
Europa League last 16 round second leg matches kicking off shortly. The pick of the ties will be Arsenal, who are hosting Rennes. Striker Alexandre Lacazette will be available after serving his 3-match ban, which was reduced to 2 on appeal. French Ligue 1 side Rennes lead the tie 3-1 on aggregate, but Unai Emery believes his Arsenal side can turn things around.
We want to play big matches, tough matches against the best team, and in Europa League we are finding some result like the last round against Bate Borisov with the difficult. This round the same with a bad result the first match, and for us is tough match tomorrow, but our demand for get our best performance is each training and each match very high.
And finally, for the first time in a decade, there will be 4 English Premier League clubs in the quarterfinals of the European Champions League. Liverpool booked their place with Senegal's Sadio Mane, helping them beat Bayern Munich away with 2 goals in their 3-1 win. That helped them reach the quarterfinals for a second successive season. Mane has now scored 10 goals in the past 10 games. And that's all the sport. Back to you, Peter.
Many thanks, Mimi. Thank you very much. Now let's go back to our top story, the building collapse in Lagos. So we know more about what happened, but we still don't understand why buildings seem to collapse so often in Lagos. For more now, let's talk to architect Biodun Fatuyi. He's from the Nigerian Institute of Architects. Biodun, why exactly is it that buildings collapse so frequently in Lagos?
Okay, it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves. I think at this stage where we have gotten to, we need more public enlightenment, especially for the end users. Especially in the Lagos Island area where this happened, we have a lot of very old buildings that were put up after the colonial era with post-colonial periods. And these buildings have a lifespan, and the occupants don't want to let go. And we need to start educating them that you can still keep the heritage of these buildings and be safe, because the buildings are old. They keep renovating and forgetting that the strength of the building it's going down.
Yeah, but you're talking about old buildings. I mean, we've seen a report today that says that 90% of the new buildings in Lagos do not meet any building standards in the state.
Well, correct. We have standards, we have codes that this that approved building must go through. Now, all buildings that are put up must go through a certain process of approval. before construction starts. But I will say that the government also needs to come up here and help us professionals to do our job better. For instance, this building that collapsed was approved to be a residential building. And then you find out that there's a school there. So at the same time, we need to check ourselves. We professionals try our best to keep up, but our people sometimes are not comfortable with what we have to say.
Yeah,
so
do you think the government is doing enough? Are there laws in place that the government should be enforcing, or do new laws have to be created?
That's what I'm saying. There are laws in place, but the government needs to enforce these laws. Now there are government parastatals that are coming up, and I can tell you that in the nearest future, if they can get more staff and more people to come in, then we might just be able to checkmate it. And of course, with the help of public education to the end users.
Are you optimistic, though, that after this latest incident, I mean, because like as I was telling our reporter earlier, we've heard all this rhetoric in the past, but after this latest incident, are you optimistic that government will now start getting a move on and enforcing these laws?
Well, building construction is very important. And the way we all take it, I think it has to be a general thing. It has to be work from the government to the professionals, to the private sector, to the public sector, and to the end users. If we come together as a team and we begin to value our lives, then I think, yes, I am optimistic. Okay. But if we continue with this attitude where a group of people are trying to pass a message and some people are not ready to take it, or some people in the government are feeling that there are other things, more important things for them to look at apart from the building control process,
anywhere.
Then
Okay.
we are going to have to.
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. He's an architect speaking to us live there from Lagos. Now let's meet models Alex and Yannick Manzizila. Originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but now based in Sweden, the twins have faced racism in the fashion industry in Sweden and other parts of Europe. But that has not discouraged them, and they are now empowering young people to try and fulfill their dreams. Nicolas Negos has more.
2 in 1. This is Alex. And here, Yannick. The 30-year-old Congolese twins are successful fashion models. It all started on Instagram.
Posted one pitch, and then after that, it blew up like. So, yeah.
But while they managed to impress many companies, the Manzizila twins face discrimination in Sweden and elsewhere in Europe.
We don't want to take the risk. It's going to be a propaganda. People are going to start talking about, black people are taking over.
Alex and Yannick still want to believe that they're working in a progressive industry and they're on a mission to change attitudes in the fashion world and beyond.
It started to be normal for us. We, like always when we look casting for work or modeling things, we never have hope to get it. If we get it, it's fine. If we are not disappointed.
It's on the catwalk and their presence on TV and social media that the twins are using as a platform to inspire young people from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. An effort that seen them win awards, including a John Best Congo Award for Model of the Year.
They don't hide being black men, they don't hide being proud of themselves, especially as models. Their identity really strikes out for them. It's not just because they're twins, but it's because they love the fact that they are black men, and that's amazing for me.
Alex and Yannick plan to hold fashion events in Africa with the support of prominent arts and sports stars, hoping their example will spread to young black people around the world.
I like their hairstyles. That's it. Goodbye.